I am so excited to continue to dig into what we as parents and caregivers can do to contribute to really awesome parent-teacher conferences. In the last session, we talked a little bit about mindset. And in this session, we're going to dig into 8 steps that we can take to contribute to even more effective parent-teacher conferences. The 8 steps are divided into 2 steps that we can take before conferences begin, 4 steps that we can take during conferences, and then 2 steps that we can take after conferences are over. So let's get started. Before the meeting, we're going to reflect on our goals. We want to get as specific as possible about what we want to know and or be able to do as a result of the conference. For example, if I've been observing that my child has been reluctant to read, they don't feel very confident, and when they do read aloud, it's not really smooth, it's kind of choppy, then one of my goals for the conference would be to understand what reading looks like for a child in my child's grade and to learn 1 or 2 strategies or 1 or 2 ways that I can help them at home to feel more confident and to be more successful when they read. You can always communicate these things via email or Class Dojo prior to the conference just to give your teacher a heads up. And that small action will make your conference time even more effective and efficient. Step 2 is going to be to check in with your child. Talking to your child will ensure that their perspectives, their experiences are a part of the conference, even if they are not physically there or if they're not sitting beside you in case you're doing a Zoom conference. You can ask your child questions like, how's the year going so far? Or what do you think your teacher is going to say? What do you hope they're going to say? Or you can ask them, are there any questions or concerns that you would like me to bring up to your teacher? It's important that our children understand that everybody's on the same team, all for their benefit. Educational research tells us that children learn best when significant adults in their lives work cooperatively to support and encourage them. And working together is easier done with a degree of rapport and understanding. Just listen to 2 of our excellent REACTS teachers share a little bit about themselves, how they came to teaching, and their hopes and dreams for this school year.
My first passion was not teaching. I wanted to work with juveniles in detention centers. So I went to school for criminal justice. And then I ended up getting my associate in criminal justice, and I got a job at Rikers Island. And while I was in the academy, we had to go to Rikers Island. And once we stepped over from the parking lot into the jail, it's like I felt totally empty. So after a while, I was just going back and forth on what should I do. And my whole family were like, why don't you become a teacher? And honestly, I thought about my 6th grade teacher, and she was there for every death of my family, every birth of my family, because I lived in a small community. So everyone knew each other. So just thinking about her and the impact she had on my life, I wanted to have the same impact on someone else.
My family wasn't really affluent, so I had a lot of needs. And so I had teachers who, care for me both academically and socially. So I was inspired by not just one, but a lot of teachers through my childhood journey. And so I wanted to share that with others. I eventually migrated to the United States, and by that time I was already a mother. So when I teach as a parent, and I teach as a teacher, right? Because what I want for my children, I want to give it to other people's children.
Being with the pandemic, most of the students being home for about a year and a half, my hopes is to bring those who are not at level to level or beyond level. And it comes from collaboration with the school and home. So this year, I'm hoping I could get parents to actually see where their child is and understand the necessity of teachers working with the parents and parents working with the teachers. So as we're pushing them and getting them where they should be, read with your kid, write with your kid, have your kid read out loud to you. So I'm hoping that we could just bring kids to where they need to be, socially, emotional, in all aspects.
Coming from a pandemic where scholars lost the interaction with their teachers in the classroom. So we're not just teaching academically, we're also teaching acceptance back into the social form. I started the school year knowing that it's going to be challenging because we have scholars that are coming back to us that haven't seen the classroom. So I need to focus on making sure that they're comfortable, they're ready to learn, and we're just going to meet them where they are. So that is my goal for this year, to make sure that everyone learns in the best way that they can.
As you listened, I'm sure you were able to appreciate these teachers even more, and you probably found a couple of points of connection. Those points of connections are essential and critical to building trust. And trust is really important if we want to work together collaboratively for the benefit of our children. On average, parent-teacher conferences are about 15 to 20 minutes long. So it's really important that you talk about the issues that are most essential to your child's success. They could be academic, or they could also be non-academic, soft skills like organization or even study skills. Step 5 is to be engaged. I know we are really, really busy, but when we are in parent-teacher conferences, we want to make sure we're in parent-teacher conferences. So take notes, ask questions, take pictures, do whatever you need to do to make sure that you get the most out of this invaluable time. A conference is just one conversation in an ongoing dialogue with your child's teacher. Before you leave the conference, make sure that you're super clear on your goal, and make sure that you have when and how you're going to follow up on progress towards that goal. I hope at this point your wheels are kind of spinning and you're already getting ideas about what you can do and things you might say in order to make your conferences awesome this year. The final 2 steps are for what you need to do after the conference is over. As you talk to your child, not only share what the teacher said about them, but share what you shared. We want them to feel a part of that conference so that any of the goals that we're working towards feels like something that we're all doing together, as opposed to something that as a parent and a teacher we're doing to the child. And last but not least, step 8 is follow up. The conference is not the end. So sometime in the not too distant future, make sure that you have 5 or 10 minutes. It can be via Zoom, email, through messaging on Dojo, or even over the phone, and just make sure to check in on progress towards goal. Talk about what your goal was. Talk about some of the things that you have done and your family have done. Talk about whether or not you met the goal and what has changed, both in class and at home. And finally, talk about next steps. What, if anything, needs to be done to meet that goal? And if that goal has been met, what's the next thing that we need to work on? Conferences are such a great opportunity to collaborate with another adult who cares deeply about your child and your child's success. So I hope these tips are going to help you fashion that space where connection can take place, where collaboration can take place, where celebration can take place, and where some really great planning can happen on behalf of our scholars. Thank you for all the work that you do with your child's teacher and for your child.